it is what it is. How long have you been in Vegas? How long have you been here?
17 years. No, 18 years now.
I wonder how long it takes when you're considered like a local. Is it like 20 years, 30
If you ask
years?
somebody who was born here, you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
You're never
you're
local,
out. You're
right?
out. Yeah.
If you ask the 65,000 people that apparently was here in 1951, they're the originals. Everybody else can go fuck themselves. You're a transplant. And you're just like, if you weren't born here, you're done. And I always ask about that. It's like, well, I have kids who were born here. Can they, or are they like foreign? Like, you know?
I always say when someone asks me if they don't know who I am, which is great, and you know, how long you been here? And I've been here 10 years, but my youngest son, Jack, is born and raised, and he's 7. So that gives permanence to me. Like, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm right here. And I've grown to love Vegas.
Oh, no, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm originally from San Diego. So it's like, people are like, oh, you're going back to San Diego. I'm like, have you ever gone through cost of living, traffic, everything?
Yeah. Homeless?
Like, in San Diego? Well, unfortunate that, you know, where I grew up, there was people who already broke back in the 90s. So nobody's homeless in that area anymore. It's been poor for a long time. So, you know, housing market didn't catch up to a point where they're getting kicked out of their neighborhoods.
If I was ever homeless, I'd be in San Diego.
Oh, why wouldn't you be?
That is the best place to be. Like, everybody here on a spaghetti bowl, I'm like, what are you doing? Get you know, Shoe Leather Express, man. Get to San Diego.
What was that bus that pays like, I think it's like $24 on like this like bus that's over by like downtown where you pick up and they take you to Cali. Like, I think it's in LA somewhere. And then there's another like $8 bus that takes you to San Diego.
It's hysterical.
And you're just like, there you go, man. Listen, that's one like 6-7 hours based on the average, 7 hours in the corner. Get your $30 and go down to San Diego.
That's the move. That's the move. Well, I have a question for you. How long have you been licensed? How long have you been a realtor?
Same thing. 18 years ever since I've been here. 18
years licensed realtor in Las Vegas. What's it like being in the shadow of your sister, who is a mega producer? She's ridiculously attractive. Just the sweetest person ever, just to live in her shadow the entire time.
Well, the good news, she's like 4'8", so their shadow's small. So it's not really a big shadow. So that's the best part.
Like, just psychologically, that's going to do damage on you. Like, every day to be like, wow, like Emily is just another level of amazing.
I'll block her on everything. We just keep it. So the goal is, listen, I can't be cuter than her, right? Because obviously she's a beautiful lady. So I either got to be sexy, get ripped, and like be good looking, or just be obnoxious and funny. So I stuck with the obnoxious and funny. It's a lot easier.
Good for you.
Yeah, because I like tacos and donuts, and I like to eat Filipino food. And so, you know, technically we eat the same garbage. She just never gains weight. Like, I was not blessed with that little Asian gene that like you can eat whatever you want, never get big. No, man. It's like we have the same shitty blood pressure. We have the same shitty cholesterol count. Hers doesn't show on the outside. Mine does. That's the crazy part. I can outrun her. I can do all the physical things over. But diet-wise, man, it's not pretty. But it's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, I got into the business after computer applications and networking. I was one of those. I followed the Asian trajectory of software engineering, or because I didn't want to be a lawyer or a doctor. So software engineering was it for my mom. So yay, mom. I hated it. And so when I was coming back, and I think I got moved to Utah for a job, on the way back, I was either going to come back to San Diego, but the cost of living was so insane after living in Utah for a couple of years that I was like, it's either Vegas or Phoenix at the time. The difference was 12 degrees. It was like 103 in Vegas and 115 in Phoenix. And I was like, Vegas, that literally 12 degrees, whether I'm going to be a Phoenician. Yeah, Phoenician or Las Vegas.
No, you're good. Phoenician.
Yeah,
you're good.
So that's it. And she was the one who told me, because she was already a broker somewhere in Carlsbad. She was like, you should try your real estate license. You know, you'd be good at sales. I'm like, I hated people back then, but I said, well, why not? I'll give it a shot.
How long, when you got your license, did it take for you to be full-time? Like, this is paying the bills now and I can put money away and stuff like that.
4 weeks after starting the business, I was at Prudential, and somebody on a Saturday during, like, I can still remember it. First of all, I was part of a team, one of the bigger REO teams that later down the line, Joe Ilucci. And I can still remember the week I got my license, because the day I walked in, Al White comes in and goes, Joe won't be here this week. His twins were born. So whenever his twins were born is the week that I got my license legally. Like, you know, back then it took 16 weeks or some ridiculous amount of time to get your license, just like now, because everybody wanted to be a realtor. And we had a company picnic, and I was the only dude inside Prudential on a Saturday. And the phone rings, and I was like, hello? They're like, somebody's up here. Somebody actually walked into the office at Prudential and said, They're looking for multifamily units. Now, remember, as a new agent, I barely knew what the fuck how to sell a single family residence, more or less, multifamily. Thank God at the time the MLS had already been established and I had to look through a book. And what I didn't know at the time, because I was only about 6 months in Vegas, the multifamily units were not in amazing neighborhoods.
No.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I was over. It was like mobile home community, multifamily, to a point where there was one fourplex and the guy walked out of I still remember it, bottom right unit. He must have missed the needle. He had a bubble in his arm from hitting.
He missed the vein.
Yeah, he missed the vein. Sorry, not the needle. Yeah, he missed the vein. So one of the 7 multi-unit families that I showed this guy, some dude came out like twitchy, like the whole shebang with a bubble in his arm. And I was just like, and this dude didn't flinch. This is an older white gentleman with that smelled like Marlboro, looked like the Marlboro man, drove like a big ass Dodge 1500 with a buckle and everything. And you could still smell like the cigarette from like the other side. I walk up there. He's talking about I want to buy some. I'm originally from Seattle. I just want to invest my money. And I'm like, sure, whatever. And I'm thinking, man, I'm going to miss the picnic. I show this guy houses and he bought 5 fourplexes for me that day. And I was like, you know what? That's enough money. I'm done. Screw this. I'll do this. I don't give a damn. Can't discuss splits, but man, I'll tell you what, it didn't matter what the split was in at the time. And so I got rid of it was like back then you had to close 5 deals before you move up in your pay scale within the team. I got that shit cranked out in one weekend and it was all 100% luck. And ever since then I was like, I like investors. I am not going to work with anyone but fucking investors. He didn't care about the floor plan. He didn't care about what was happening in the neighborhood. He just cared, what's the return? I calculated that return quick, fast, and in a hurry, and boom, that was it. So it took about 6 months.
Which is unheard of, by the way. That's unheard of.
Yeah, so it took 6 months. From the time I passed my test, 13 weeks for my license, a month later, which made it 17 weeks. And then we closed the deal at 22 weeks. So it's about, and then when I first got my checks, and after then I was always in the office, taking calls, making calls. Whenever a lead would come in, Joe would just be like, here, take this. Here, take this. I'd be like, where you at? What house do you want to see? And I just get up and go. Now they have all these are they pre-qualified, qualifying questions. I was more like, even to this day, I find myself somebody calling on a property. I don't give a shit. I was like, what do you want to see? Let's go. What am I doing? All right, I'm sitting on my ass right now doing nothing. I'm going to go ahead and just go.
There are 2 very big schools of thought, differentiating schools of thought with that to say, get the buyer broker agreement, get the BBA, you're wasting your time. But then also there's, wait a minute, I'm making the investment in this person. I'm an optimist. I think that we're going to work together or I'll get referrals from this person. I'll earn that right.
Yeah.
For not pushing paperwork in front of them, to CYA, to cover your fanny but let's go ahead and let's start looking at properties.
Yeah. My point is the same way. Anything you buy in life, other than a house, a car, they don't ask for your pre-approval. You can just basically give me your license and start driving. When you go shopping, anywhere you go in life, I don't care. It's glasses, watches, phones. Do they really go, how much room do you have in your credit card? How are you going to pay for it? It's like, what do you want to see? The only difference is those people who live like that, obviously they're hourly, right? For a lot of the most part. But to me, it's like, I'm already here. Now, granted, the traffic recently has caused me to kind of reconsider some of these things. But back then, 16, 17, 18 years ago, you can get from one corner of Las Vegas to the next in 20 minutes. There's no major traffic. The Nevada State Flower hasn't been established yet. And for those who don't know, the Nevada State Flower is our traffic cones, the orange cones. And so, but now you're like, oh man, I got to drive across the 215. I got to get through the 95. You're like, you're putting in your navigation to see how far it is. And you might consider that, but now you just do activities. Look, if it's nearby, I go. I show a house. Worst case scenario, he doesn't buy. And
so with 2023 and with the shift, are you still investor heavy? Are you now book of businesses set up and you're in single family residentials, high rise?
So back in 2000, the shift happened actually 2017, 2018, somewhere around there when the average sales price versus the average income or the average rental came in, it began dropping below 7% consistently. It got to 6%. So average sales price was this was the rental. The rent didn't keep up with the sales price going up. And so the investors started really pulling back. And there's really no true investor worth their worth in grain or in salt, whatever what the saying is.
Worth their weight in salt.
Yeah, worth their weight that would look at an investment below 5 or even below 6. They always wanted 8 or above. And in about 2017, 2018, when the average sales price started hitting well past 300,000 or like in the middle of 300,000 and our rental income wasn't quite keeping up with it, the investors started pulling out. So I had to start really working with what I consider to be traditional buyers, where apparently a floor plan mattered. Who the fuck knew? And like, I think I told a story on my Instagram once, and I said, I'm so dense with this that I had a client come in and we walked into the house and she was like, oh, I don't like the energy. Like, I don't feel the energy. So I was like, oh, so then I went to the thermostat and adjusted the thermostat. I was like, no, we're good. It's working. I'm like a dumbass. And she was just looking at me going, no, the energy's still off. And I was like, no, I can feel the flow. And the husband was like, nah, man, no, wrong thing. Not the energy. And that's when I like started learning, and I ended up finding out about feng shui. I had a client that was like, I can't have a house that had this. It can't be this. And it was a long list. And I was just like, oh, what? What do you mean you don't? What is it again? There's a number. You don't want the sink across from the stove, but wouldn't it make it easier to? Oh, it's contradicting energy, and that it took every ounce of energy in me to go, you've lost your fucking mind. Like, you know how many houses there are where the sink and the stove is like right there, or, and I'm just like, okay, that's your preference. And sometimes I divert back to the investors like, listen, we can get this thing below market. And they're just like, no, it doesn't flow. And I was like, but it's free money. Why are you not taking the free money? Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Take the free. And I'm just, and then that's it. But I still stick to my numbers a lot. I still find myself being like the energy, I guess, so to speak, or the people that come to me still kind of just flow with the whole like money, like how's the market, what kind of income is it coming in? Like, they still want to know. And I get very fortunate with that. I still get people who literally, like, even other agents, the great smart genius that is my sister, will still call me once in a while and go, hey, what do you think of this? And I just pop it up. She's like, how do you know that? I go, because I'm a nerd. Like, all I do is look at these stupid numbers and go, that makes sense.
The numbers don't lie.
They never
do. The numbers will never, ever lie. And that's something that I preach to new agents, to top producers. And I look at, if you don't lead with data, you are tying your arm behind your back.
Yeah.
You have to, especially now more than ever, even though resi resale and new build residential real estate is a very emotional decision. But still, you need to explain to them everything you can under the fiduciary responsibilities of a realtor to say, look, this is what it is. You make your decision. If you want my opinion, I'll give it.
Yeah.
But if not, okay.
Yeah. The second part, I have a hard time. Not my opinion. I'm like, wow, you're being an idiot. So I'm part of the agency, right? And they have the 10 rules, like the no assholes. And they, I've only been there about 4 weeks. And I guess the other agents vote for who they feel fits the thing, and the one I got tells it like it is. And I was like, okay. I even did a video. I was like, I think they just called me an asshole, but because rule number 1 is no assholes, I have that problem. And I'm blessed at the same time to go just, oh, you don't like my opinion? There's 7.9 billion other people you can get your opinion from. Have at it. Go find your tribe.
But that's, and we've been friends for years.
Yeah.
I've always loved you because of you just say it like it is. You're funnier than hell, but that's also because you're welcome. But it's because you don't have an agenda.
No.
And you are drawn to people that like you and you like them. And it's not because of financial gain or status or clout or anything like that. It's just, hey, I like you, you like me, let's have drinks.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Life is easy that way sometimes.
It's so much easier that way. You breathe rarefied air when you're at a point in your life where you don't have to be friends with somebody.
No. If I reach double digits on friendships, I always think I'm very close to my family, my sister, obviously my mom and my other sister, and we have family time a lot. And then there's work. And then there's a handful of friends. Look, if you tell me you have 50 close friends, you must not have time, because I have about 8 or 9 and I've had to say no to them on a few occasions. Like, I can't go, I'm doing this, or I'm with family, or I just don't want to be around people, which happens a lot more than people think. But at the same time, it is like my id-gaff muscle, like I flex it quite a lot. Now, I have the biggest heart to those who are in my circle. Anybody who knows me will know I'll give you the shirt off my back. But I'm also the same guy that outside of that circle, I will just be, I have some people who are colleagues and they say, well, how's your relationship? I don't hate anybody. I don't have time to hate. I really don't. I know that sounds like a cheesy thing to say, but I say, look, if I had an open house scheduled this Saturday and your funeral happens to be during my open house, I won't cancel my open house. That's just the level. Or I'll be the dude making all the arrangements to make sure you have an amazing funeral. But again, that's my only two levels at this point. There's some people who are in the middle ground that maybe, I don't know where they belong, but I know they're probably not going to get in the inner 10. And then they'll just be like, maybe there's the middle ones be like, oh, you know what? The open house is probably not going to be that busy. I'll cancel it and pop into the funeral and get you flowers, or I'll send flowers over. But for the most part, that's it.
But here's the thing, Sherwin. If that was me, I'm still dead. I'm still dead. I don't care if you come to my funeral or not. I'd rather you do the open house.
Make money?
To feed you and yours.
Appreciate that.
Right? Seriously. Like, to me, it's putting your own self-worth to the test.
Yeah.
And an analogy I use all the time is when you want to sell your car, you go to CarMax and just say, hey, how much? And no, you're not going to sell it yourself. You're not going to be, you're not a car dealer. You're going to put out in your front lawn with a for sale sign. Give me a break. Stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah.
Are you crazy? But you go there and you find out, oh, my car is worth $40,000. Okay, awesome. It's the same thing when you start putting yourself out there. Like if you're divorced and you start like dating women, it's like, oh my, really? Like you want to go out with me? Are you crazy? Like there's often, that happens with me. I'm like, what? But I don't say a word. But internally, I'm like, I could have never. If 20-year-old Jeff looked at 53-year-old Jeff and saw like the amazing women that I've been, had the pleasure of going out with, it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's awesome. And I think that it's the same thing that it transcends to business, because when you finally get to the point where you just don't care, and people see that, and it's so refreshing. Because there's so many people, especially like I've talked about it ad nauseum with people online, and that are at all the luxury broker opens, or here they are with this really cool car, even though the car is leased and the car is more than a mortgage payment.
Yeah.
I remember back at a big office in town that you know very well. I met with somebody there and I was like, dude, great Mercedes. I knew his numbers. I'm like, what, just between us, how are you making this work? He's like, my car payment is $1,500 a month. And I said, what? Are you kidding me? And that's the stuff that you're adding stress to your life when you have a $1,500 a month car payment and you're doing maybe 7 or 8 deals a year.
They better be multi-million-dollar deals.
You better be balling it, man. You better be balling it. But so many people, I think, in this town especially, because of Vegas, and the moniker that Vegas connotes to people is to say, well, you've got to be doing this and acting like this and be at this location and this grand opening and all. What?
Yeah, no.
It's more about the interpersonal one-on-one relationships you have with people, because they fall in love with you. Like you're adored, dude. People freaking love you. Well, it's true. And so because of that, though, you've built a wonderful brand for yourself.
I do, okay.
Which is rare. Yeah. It's rare. Like there's only a few people in town I can name on one hand who have a solid brand that they've created for themselves.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And that's why I wanted to get you on here, was just to talk more about that, because it is refreshing, and other people, agents or otherwise, who are in business, especially business for themselves, could take many lessons.
They could. I mean, I've met with a lot of new agents who are struggling, and I think I've even posted on social media, and I'm not a big social media person. But I'm being told I have to be out there more. So I find to tell them that, look, you have to look, you see these like news headlines, dig deeper. When we see, I think it was when somebody said 360% increase in foreclosures. And I was like, from 34 to 140, our market's going to fucking crash all of a sudden. Where are you pulling these numbers out of? Like, yes, you're not lying when you say there's a 350, but let's just, when it comes to real estate, it's almost to the point where we had a shitty last quarter, statistically. Was it the worst ever? It is, but we had the same similar one in 2013 when you pull the last quarter of 2013. So you look at that and go, okay, you're whining, but you don't realize that, great, instead of 2,400 closings, we had 1,980 in the MLS. That's 4,000 sides. There's approximately, at the time it was like 16,000 agents. Okay, so there's one deal for every 4 agents. Well, let's get rid of half of those agents that don't do shit, don't know what they're doing. Now there's 2. Now your competition is really 2, right? And now those 2 agents are competing for a deal. What are the chances you'll get it? Much stronger if you just get your head out of your own ass and just get out of your own self and stop thinking that it's you. It really isn't you. It's the market. It's just you work with it. There's been the people who we've worked with during the foreclosure years and over the decade that are still here made it because they weren't like, oh, the market's going to crash or this is going to, they made it because where am I going to get the next deal from? How am I going to make it happen? And you just fucking work.
The realtors that know they don't matter are the ones that matter the most because they humble themselves in a way that they are there as an advocate for their clients.
Yep.
And they are there to empathize with them in the most stressful, biggest financial transaction of their lives.
Yeah.
But to shepherd them through that, to put all the emphasis on them.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that the most successful agents I've seen, yeah, some of them are all about, some of them are like, it's me, or I did this. But really, realistically, when they're in a transaction, because I've done deals with some of the biggest agents here, it's not about them. They understand it's a representation. They're on the bottom line. And I think we were talking about a friend who helped bring you in here. We were talking one time and goes, look, I do luxury, but I'm probably like 3rd from the bottom of importance on their list. They have their accountant. They value their nanny more than they value me.
We could say Darren. It's okay.
Okay. So yeah, we could say Darren said that.
Darren's a stud.
Yeah, Darren said it before. He said, I know for a fact that like one of my clients, car managers probably is a higher level than me, right? Because he's, to him, he values his car more than just another asset or another property he's going to maybe live in or whatever in this town. And the nanny is definitely ahead of me, right? He's like literally going, yeah, they want to take it. But yet agents put themselves in the forefront like they're the greatest asset. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. You're supposed to have some confidence. And if you know what the fuck you're doing, you're supposed to have that confidence. But really, we are the 2nd from the bottom of the most trusted industry. Like, we're not trusted. We really aren't. I hate to say that, but we are not fucking trusted. And it's a matter of branding and it's a matter of trust. Everybody will recommend their agent supposedly, but yet 80% of people don't use the same agent. Then they think about it afterwards. So if you're an afterthought, that means you didn't do good enough job because you were talking about you, and people don't want you. They want, what was that saying? People don't care how you feel, how you make them feel is more important than anything else, right? It's an old saying, and whether it's in the industry. So I'm lucky that I don't give a shit. And somehow I still do pretty decent. My bills are paid. My shoes are shined. That's it, But really, man, it's everybody watches all these shows and think this is this easiest thing. And last year when the market was hot, and I like 2021, I was like, oh, the market's hot. This is a perfect time. I go, okay, go in and pay your dues. You think that you're going to walk in and go, oh, $6 million listing, have a good day. I heard this one guy that sold. Yeah, I also know about this one guy that won the lotto. I'm not fucking betting my life on it, right? Like there's how many millionaires? How many of them are lotto? So when agents come into the industry and go, this one guy did this great thing. Great. But you're not that one guy. There's only one Steve Jobs. There's only one Elon Musk. There's only one Bill Gates.
The cool thing I've seen from 2022 to now is we had all these kids and their kids that came in from the industry, right? From Tao Beach Club or Hakkasan or whatever, right? Because that's what we've got that here in Vegas. So guys and girls, ridiculously attractive, massive social media, big on TikTok, big on Instagram, the whole thing. And now with this shift, I love it because I have a bunch of them. They're my clients now. Mm-hmm. I work for them, and they actually do have a work ethic.
Yes.
Some have dropped off, but more than I thought of have stayed on and are now tweaking their systems. If they're not in a good office, I get a phone call. Hey, I'm looking to move. Where should I go? Where's a good fit for me?
Yeah.
And so that's been a refreshing observation that I've seen is that these kids want to work.
Yeah.
Because they see the brass ring. They know, the tunnel is getting that car, that house, that watch, whatever. But how are you going to get there?
Mm-hmm.
And the devil's in the details with every day. What are you doing to amass generational wealth for yourself?
Yeah.
And it's been fun to watch.
But I think part of it is, and we're going to go physical here, a lot of them are in great, phenomenal shape. They diet, they meal prep, they go to the gym. It's on a scheduled basis. What I'm finding is those people who are dedicated to the when they get into the industry and you tell them, hey, think of it as how you built your body. It isn't immediate. It takes time. You may have to show up and, gym every day, but like go door knocking every day. Make that phone call every day. And you ask them, like, how long does it take you to develop the abs and what kind of work did it take? And they will tell you this long detail. And you just tell them, now imagine that in real estate. Imagine you're 100 pounds heavier than where you are now, just fat and flat. Just imagine you look like me and you're trying to get ripped with abs, right? It's a lot of fucking work. Same thing for real estate. You want to make that solid 6 figures. You want to make $250,000, $500,000 a year. Do exactly how you transfer it. And that's the reason why some of the most successful newer agents I've been dealing with or I've met, they seem to be either in good shape or they have a commitment to something in the past, right? They were an athlete or they were a manager for a retail shop that understood process and timing. And so you see them translate that to the real world, into our world, in the real estate world, and they realize, shit, I can do this. I just can't expect the result in the next 30 days. I just know that my abs aren't showing for another 3 to 4 months, right? Like the muscles and the cuts aren't going to show up, which is your paycheck. It may not happen right away, but you still got to commit to it. You can't be like 5 minutes at the gym and go, in 6 months, I'm going to have abs. It's time.
It's such a good observation to equate that to something that they relate to, like meal prep or going to the gym, and to say, look, you didn't get washboard abs in a week or a month even. This takes time. And just like being in real estate, it takes time. Yeah. You're not going to walk in and become an overnight millionaire in real estate. It's just not going to happen.
God, no.
It's just not going to happen.
No.
I love the fact that, I'm from New York, and I'm the king of self-deprecating humor. I've never met somebody so West Coast, but has an amazing sense of self-deprecating humor.
Oh, that's fine.
Because it just, dude, you kill me. You just kill me with your stuff. But also you're very good at, this is something a lot of people are not good at. You're good at being nice to yourself.
Yes.
I think that you are, and you're very good at showing yourself grace. That is something that most people struggle with, is to accept a compliment. Just to let that wash over you, that somebody is sincerely taking time out of their world. They're going off of social media to look you in the eye or tell you over the phone, you know what? I like you. I really appreciate who you are and what you stand for.
Thank you. Yeah. And it takes a lot of courage because there's a lot of haters out there. And you got to go the difference between somebody who is giving you a compliment or is giving you like an offhanded compliment, right? It's like one of those things like, oh, hey, nice hat. Thanks. It covers my bald spot. Appreciate it. It's like, but again, if I take myself too seriously, I'd probably be stressed out, fatter than I am now. Filipino food, for example, and the food I eat is not healthy. Let's just be real here. So if I stress about every little thing, dude, I would have a heart attack, right? So I either just let it roll off my shoulders. And again, not everything, right? With family, it's a different story. With my small circle of friends, it's a different story. When this happened, so I was talking to, and she's going to hate me, so I won't say her name. So we were at a broker open 2 nights ago. And this is how close friends we are. So she says, she was talking to the girl, and the girl goes, oh man, you have a perfect face. It's beautiful. And she comes to me and goes, tell him what you said about me. And she's like, yeah, she has a perfect face. Look at her face. It's like the jawline. And then, beautiful. Like people pay for that kind of face. People pay for that. Look at her chin. And I was like, which one? But like, if you're going to hang out with me, you can't have thin skin because...
What, did Rexy punch you in the face then, or was it later on that night? That's what I want to know.
She froze.
Okay.
She looked at me going,
thank you.
You motherfucker.
Yeah, thank you.
I was like, well, you can't expect like somebody to like, that's a layup. For me, that's a layup. That's like perfect chin. I'm like, which one? But I can do that because when I'm recording, when I was doing a video, she was like, raise the phone because, hide your chin. And I was like, I have several of them. What kind of angle do you need for this fucking thing to go away?
I got more chins in a Chinese phone book. Just calm down. Just calm down.
I don't really. And people are like, oh, you grew your beard. I was like, yeah, it hides the roundness.
Yeah, hello. Hides the waddle.
Yeah.
I do. Same thing. And it's something that the 2 cornerstones of I know of you and me is, one, you just don't care what do people think of you. There's no fear of judgment whatsoever.
Yeah.
In person, on social media, whatever, gossip, that's just what it is. But also, you are really good at being kind to yourself. And that's the number one thing that people do not do. They are not kind to themselves. They do not take a compliment. Start looking at, for every 10 people you give a compliment to, how many people actually accept it?
Oh, they just,
most people don't. Yeah,
yeah.
Most people, when you give them a compliment, they deflect.
Yeah.
Why? It doesn't cost you anything to accept a compliment. And it's the best way for you to get the serotonin pumping and for validation of who you are.
Oh, I thought it was getting laid, but yeah, sure, a compliment.
Well, that's up there too.
Wait, that's the biggest compliment you can have, right?
But again, but that comes down to, but getting laid is like, okay, that's awesome. To be with somebody sexually, amazing, is a validation of like, they want to be with you.
Yeah.
Take out any pharmaceuticals or alcohol or anything else that they might be under the influence of.
God, that's a tough one.
As long as you've got good attorneys, you're fine.
That's fine.
I just think that we need to be more kind to ourselves first. Everyone says, be nice to everybody. You know what? No. Be nice to yourself first.
Yeah. And you can genuinely give good advice, right? Like, if I'm looking like I'm homeless every day and if I look like shit every day dressed and I give somebody a compliment on how they're dressed, they're just going to be like, well, fuck, I'm wearing pants without holes. Obviously, you think everybody's dressed nice, but I dress decent when I show up outside, right? And so, but my family growing up, they're the first one to tell me if I'm not dressed right. So I already knew from the get-go, like, you're raised by two sisters and your mom, you're not leaving the house not dressed. So when I give somebody a compliment, I actually do mean it. I remember for the longest time, me and you were talking, it was at the lapel pin. For the longest time, it was like lapel pin game. We were showing lapel pins, pocket squares. I was like, that's a nice little lapel. I'm going to get you in the next one.
And you did. And you would. The coolest thing you did that endeared me to you is I'd be at an event wearing a custom suit, thinking I'm the bee's knees, and you'd come over and pull out my pocket square and redo it to some type of like origami. Like, it's just amazing.
It's the Asian thing.
But you would do it, like I'd be talking to somebody, you'd come over, not say hi, pull out my pocket square, make it look like something that should be in the Louvre in Paris, stick it in there and walk away.
It was beautiful.
And I'm like, I love this son of a bitch.
Yeah, you had the lapel pin going. It was perfect. And then like you bunched up your pocket square and you shoved it in there like you just blew your nose. I was like, Jeff, come on, man. Let's get a little flower going. Let's get a little flair going.
True. It's all true though. But that's just you demonstrating kindness to someone that you care about.
Absolutely.
And I never forgot that. And being an East Coast guy, I'm all about that. Well, that's my thing.
The thing about us, I think the first time I really got to know you was you spoke at a panel with
AREAA.
Kenny and Herman. And one thing I remember, somebody told me, I was talking smack about it, and I was like, well, I said you were like the diversity speaker to make sure that we cover all races. And then I was describing, now Kenny is Chinese, you know him. But I was fucking with him, and I told him, I introduced him as like, Kenny, if you guys recognize him, he was part of a K-pop band, but he grew facial hair, so they kicked him out. And he was like, and Kenny's like kind of going, what? But I'm Chinese. He literally said, he goes, I'm not Korean. And I was like, I'm just kidding, Kenny. And he was like, oh, okay. And then Queen Herman was there just flaring up. And that was one of the times I started meeting you. And then I just started seeing you at events, obviously, here and there. And then you even then you were getting really big on social media or these podcasts or everything that you were doing. It was nice. It was a refreshing thing from the traditional systems that people were kind of sick of. So good job on that. You still have a job. So obviously you went the right path.
I'm still okay.
You're still okay, and, can we doing podcasts? Look at you.
We're doing podcasts.
Do you guys see this?
Look over your shoulder. Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. I know I've arrived when I have that.
Yeah. I mean, not that you can get it anywhere at all. That's got to be custom made for you, right?
That's me.
Uh-huh.
All me.
All you.
That's just all me with the steely, blue eyes looking at you, looking through you.
Take it easy, Jeff. I said I only brought 3 underwear today, so I already took one off earlier.
That's fine. Listen, I am a strong investor in Gore-Tex. I've got you. Don't you worry. Like water off a duck's back, my friend. I've got you.
There you go.
Don't you worry.
So now, how's everything else been for you, though?
Good.
The market's picked up, right?
The market's picked up. Our orders are up at Fidelity. We're, everybody had a crappy, Q4, please. Forget it. But now we're seeing orders are up. And we're seeing stuff, I'm cautiously optimistic that stuff is ticking back up. I think that really what's going on now in the market is a reset that had to happen a while ago.
Yeah.
If you look at the appreciation rate, especially here in Vegas, is bananas, double digits, like year over year. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? And so, yeah, we're still sexy to somebody from LA County, but what?
We're getting to that point.
And so we're reaching that maximum density here. There's still a housing shortage.
Yeah.
Huge here.
It's been for a decade.
at least a decade. And so that's an issue. Water, what's up with that? And they talk about it, but
this is why I drink my own pee to save water.
Good for you. Well, Bear Grylls would be so impressed with you. That could be the next thing. It'd be like one of Bear Grylls' things.
Yeah, no, man, they don't have tacos in the wild.
You never know. You could be in Mexico. You could be in the Mexican desert or something. Baja Peninsula.
Are we talking about the same taco? I'm talking about the. No. I didn't think so either. Yeah.
No, but that's a donkey show thing for you. So that's totally different.
I grew up in San Diego, man. Donkey shows are a thing. So, but yeah, the market. It's been, and again, we were cautious about it. It wasn't the worst we've had ever, but it was amount of units. And then when the numbers came out and realized that the average sales price was flat, I was like, fucking told you guys. I said, I was monitoring every week, average sales price. I was calling random agents going, how close are you to list price? How bad is it? And I was just like, and I think after June, when we were trying to comp numbers, and my great sister let me step out of the shadow when she asked me a question.
Emily. You could say her name.
Emily goes, what do you think? What do we do? How do we price it? I go, whatever the price was at the end of 2021 is probably where we're going to end up right now in this market. And sure enough, it ended 425 flat. January's at 425. And I was like,
that's funny.
Holy shit. And I still have, I don't argue. I do argue with people on social media for fun. Sometimes I do it just for shits and giggles, just to see how pissed I can get them.
Oh, you do. And you do it. You play people like they're a Stradivarius.
So a guy was arguing with me about the market. I go, you're talking about here in Vegas? You want to argue with me about my market in Vegas where you're not even here, or are you talking national? And so then we were kind of going back and forth, and I go, look, man, we're flat. Stop arguing with me about the fucking numbers. I'm giving you what's already happened, not like what I'm predicting. I hardly ever predict. I look at the market, because people act like all this shit is brand new data. I'm like, they've been tracking this since 1960s, guys, 70s and 80s. When I said the housing shortage isn't going anywhere, it's because every year the new builders are like, oh, this is how much we built. They report this shit. And they were like, well, I don't understand why it's such a shortage. Well, the builders had no money after 2008-9. Financially, they were so strapped. They were selling land to each other just to have movement happening. And even in town now, there's developments where it was all Lennar, and then half of it was Pulte. And then it was all Pulte, and half of it went to KB. Toll Brothers had to sell to KB and build KB homes in a Toll Brothers community, which people forget that now that's not happening. But imagine you're, let's say, I don't know, somewhere was a new development, in Henderson by Lake Las Vegas. You know this one. Whatever, it's over there. So there's a development, and it's like KB's building. Imagine all of a sudden, 3 months from now, KB sold the 100 lots that didn't quite finish. They've already built 60 to Lennar. That's what was
that
happening.
Cadence?
Cadence, yeah. So that's what happened. Inspirado was supposed to be like all Toll Brothers.
I know. And I'm out there. I love it.
I know.
I love it.
People forget that that's what happened in the market. We were short. People didn't have the money. They were so scared to build. And even when they wanted to, they didn't have the capital to be able to build. And so if you look at the builds in 2010 all the way to 2014, almost non-existent for new homes. They started catching up in 2015, but you're 5 years behind. And I think Habib came up, I started using his numbers where he tracked back and goes, oh, the average age is between 38 and 42 as a buyer. Oh, okay. Well, we can find out what that number looks like by looking at the birth rate from 79 to 1983. I did a video on that, and I was like, I'm not making this up. I took his data, and he even did it. I basically replicated and go, oh yeah, he's right. I wasn't none of this is something I made up. I was just like, he's right. I'm not going to argue with him. And then I went to the naysayers, right? The negative people, and go, okay, where are you getting your data from? Because if your data is accurate as well, then I can take you seriously. But the naysayers have been, the problem with the naysayers is people listen to Chicken Little a lot, quite a lot.
All the time.
And the other problem with that is they predict rain every single day, 365 days a year. And when it rains 3 times, they act like they're Nostradamus. And you're like, look, if you predict that you're going to take a shit every day and you don't do it for 7 days, but you do it on the 8th day, that doesn't make you correct. It just means you're backed up. But it also means that it's something that happens. It's one of those, we're arguing back and forth, but I'm pretty respectful when it comes to real estate marketing. Now, you're going to argue me about politics or anything else in life, I will just, for fun, I'll just piss you off until the point where you block me. I've been blocked a lot. But real estate-wise, I do hear both sides. I watched when somebody comes out with this is what's happening, and when somebody said, oh, there's a massive increase in foreclosures, and I was like, okay, well, let me narrow it down to Clark County. Let somebody get me the data for Clark County. And I'm looking at Clark County, and I'm like, bro, come on. Yeah, I'll equate to weight loss again. Look, You're 500 pounds. Great. You lost 10 pounds. You got some ways to go before you consider yourself healthy.
Chicken Little.
You know, but it's what captures the news. It's not pretend it doesn't work, because we both know it works, and it's perfectly fine. That's the hardest part about where I sit, is like trying to not compete, but trying to get people to like, I know you saw that article. Calm down. It's a thing. That's why I also read articles, because in today's economy, or in today's world, the consumer knows more than 99% of us, because while you're not reading those articles, while you're not following the Wall Street Journal, Inman News, Realtor News, when you're not following, you all hate Zillow, so you don't want to read their articles. Yeah, they have economists that follow this shit. Like, go ahead, and it's okay to listen to them.
Yeah.
It's okay to read all the news you can, because your consumer is. You don't want to listen to Zillow. Well, they're the number one source for consumers when it comes to the housing market. You can't just tell somebody who read a shitty article on Zillow that it's wrong, but you never read it. Well, then understand. Read it. Like, where did they get their data from? Are they looking at a national level? They're also based in the Bay Area, which means that you're right. The Bay Area is getting hit. They have a double-digit decrease year over year. So when they read those articles, you got to check the source and realize that's not your market. You know, that's them, because they had a massive oversaturation and they had people with a shit ton of money. That's not us locally. I don't argue with national news because I can't talk intelligently about something. I can't study 1,000 markets. I can study Vegas, right? And I can study the movements and say, hey, U-Haul and Penske said this is how many people are renting one-way trucks to come here. And then we look at the driver's license being given up. I know where they're coming from, and then I'll look at that market and go, so why are they moving? And then I can target the reason why they're moving. But when people argue with me about numbers and statistics, I just look at them and go, it's already happened, man. Like, it's like weighing myself on a scale and go, it says 200 pounds. Like, no, I'm telling you right now, it's not 200 pounds. I'm like, listen, I wish it wasn't 200 pounds, but that's what the thing says.
That ship sailed.
Yeah.
That ship sailed. I had last month Amanda Humphreys, who works for a big home builder in town that we can't say who it is, but they're a national home builder. And we talked about the market. And she said, a lot of times new builds lead the way in terms of what the market is. And she said, business is a booming.
Yeah.
They're doing well. And she was telling staggering information. And then actually anybody that watches this, they'll see the one, because the one with her will drop before us. But she said 65% of everybody that's coming in right now, unrepresented by a realtor, and they have been on the sidelines since 2019 to 2020 when COVID hit, and they've just been sitting back and waiting.
Yeah.
And saving money. And now they're coming in heavy and buying a new home.
And real estate is 90 days behind in all news. I think it's funny we talk about it, because I think you saw me post on Instagram. You had said something about it, and I was like, it's 90 days. So when the rates are at 7.5, or when it started hitting high sixes and low sevens, that was like towards November. And I said, okay, it's going to go lower, and then obviously people were like, it's going to go to 10%. I'm like, no numbers show it's going to go to 10%. But, it is an increase. And I said, people are going to get used to this. And come January, February, when the frozen season, because it's always already slow in December, and this did not help at all, it's going to start coming back to what's considered to be normal. Normal before 2022, normal before 2021, whatever we're selling in 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Break down the average month of every single monthly sale, compare it to that, and you're going to notice something very, very similar. Minor units sold, coming back. And for the builders, I think it was in the end of October, November, when I said there was a dick measuring contest between sellers and buyers, right? Because the sellers wouldn't drop the price enough or would not give incentives, and the buyers weren't willing to pay the price. I said, right now, what's going to happen is the sellers are winning. Like, what do you mean? Because the average sales price dropped $7,000, not 70, 7,000. It went from 439 to 432 from October to November. So I was like, the sellers are winning the dick measuring contest. I know they are, because if they were losing, average sales price would be 390, not 432 at the time. So there was not a massive drop. And they're like, well, it dropped from 482. That was a peak. You got to figure out what you did at the very end of the year and go annual and go, yeah, it peaked because people rushed to get that 3%. And when they saw it hit 4, they rushed to get the 4 because now it's looking like it's going to get to the 5s and 6s. And when it started hitting 5 and 6s, people were like, I can no longer afford the house. But we had an increase in condos and townhouses, which tells us that people were still going to buy, but because the houses, single-family resident sellers were not willing to drop 50 grand, they settled down and go, fine, I'll just buy the townhouse. And so the demand for townhouse and condos went up a little bit. Like the amount of units sold in condos and townhouses is higher in 2022. Like there was not a drop, but in single family residence is where all the units sold was lost. So in November, I was like, I negotiated 50 grand off a house that was already in a contract for several months. I negotiated one for 35,000. I negotiated another one where they added more incentives. So I made a video. I was like, hey guys, guess what? The builders made a move. They're moving. They're making incentives. The sellers are now next. The sellers will now see what the builders are doing and go, okay, fine. We may not drop the price below base, but we'll give you other incentives. Sure enough, 34% of all sales, no, here in Vegas was 42%. I think 40% of all sales had seller incentives. But the price didn't drop, right? It went from, average sales price went from $432 to $425. But the incentives were like $12,000, $16,000. The buy downs were happening. The 5-1 arms and it was like people were locking in 10-year arms at like 4.25, 4.5 because they figured in 10 years, I'll figure out what the hell I'm doing. The average person lives in a house for 6. They have 4 extra years. And so the builders, like you said, are the first ones who start making that move. And now the builders, you'll see, they are full blown like, hey, we got our equipment. They're building. They now have it. So who knows? But at this point, nothing in the last, we're now in the 13th. We are now 12 days into the month, and we are 1,100 homes sold for the month so far. Closed. Based on an average, that's going to get us to 2,400 to 22 to 2,400, which means it may be lower than last year where it was nuts because interest rates were 3. But my numbers tell me that's exactly how we were the last decade, minus 2022.
We're fine. We're fine. The one thing, and our X factor is that big old state, over to the west of us.
Yeah.
And I am adamant that I think that Las Vegas Realtors, the association here in Vegas, should garnish everybody's commission 1% and put it into a super PAC. And that money goes to reelect Gavin Newsom, governor of California, forever. In perpetuity, let that guy do whatever he wants to do, because I thought Jerry Brown was a mess, but he took it and just buried it even deeper in the hole.
And he's the one that's kind of, you got to remember where they got elected from, right? So he's a Bay Area guy.
He's mayor of San Francisco.
Yeah, so his world is completely different from from the rest of the California. I'm from San Diego. He wouldn't get votes in San Diego. San Diego is a fairly conservative military town. So he would never get that. So his policies are leaned towards, I don't know what it is. It's like, does he feel guilty that there's so many homeless people? So he's got to like tax the rich, which clearly isn't helping. Like, I'm confused at some of the policies. 13.5% on money, 11.5% tax on money over $1 million. Are you shitting me? That's $110,000 to $130,000 of somebody's money.
April 1st, the manor tax comes in. God. And if anybody is smart, they'd be talking to a title rep who can get them people who their net worth or their home is, $3 million and up.
So every townhouse in San Francisco and every house in Irvine.
Exactly right. And can get with a good title rep that can actually build an algorithm that shows anybody whose homes are $3 million and up and can skip trace that and show you how to skip trace that and get you the phone numbers and email addresses of those people.
Skip trace. I believe, I don't know if you were in that class. They talked about skip tracing it. And if you couldn't find it, go to Fiverr and be like, hire somebody to skip trace backward addresses.
Yeah, Fiverr's great. Fiverr, and I love Upwork now. I hire freelancers, they're called, off of Upwork.
Nice.
More onshore people.
Okay.
I did Fiverr for years, but just the language barrier, the time difference with India, Pakistan, all that, I couldn't do it anymore. And so I've been in Fiverr for the past year or so and love it.
So for those of you guys who also want to go start paying, you're afraid you're paying an off place that your identity might be stolen, buy a $500 Visa gift card and use that to pay for your shit.
It's true.
There's no identity. It's just a nice little basic thing. So
it is very true.
So,
good advice.
If you're afraid somebody's going to steal your shit, I've used that for years on Amazon because you have to have, for the longest time, you have to have a credit card on file. So and you don't want to accidentally let your kids order shit. Like you see all these things. Oh, he ordered $1,000 worth over my dead fucking body.
Amen.
No way in hell. Well, my kids know better, but I'm like, you put that Visa that expires in 2 years with $50 in it. Worst case scenario, $50 gone.
And you're covered.
You're covered.
Last topic I wanted to cover with you, and we'll wrap it up. AI, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT. Are you in it? Are you out of it? Are you looking at it? Where are you at with it?
So analytically, I'm slow to the game when it comes to these kind of things. I am always cautious about what kind of information, how close is it, but we've had friends in the Bay Area who's been using sort of AI or 24-hour things on DMs and responding. It is a phenomenal tool. It is scary as shit, Terminator type like thing.
Cyberdyne Systems.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm looking at it going, this is creepy. And it's like one of those things where I'm like, I know I'm going to have to catch up and actually use it. But part of me goes, fuck, I feel like one small glitch and like I'm screwed. But again, that's on me. I think it's a tremendous tool and it's only getting better. It's self-learning and you can't even tell the difference. I mean, talk about catfish 2.0, like to the next level. These things it's an amazing tool. And I tell people, if you want to try it, do it now. It's already blowing up. And I'm seeing those who incorporated it 6-7 months ago are fucking making a killing. And so you look at that, like the Gary V thought process is like, you don't like it, try it for 6 months. Worst case scenario, it's not like you're spending 50 hours a week on it. What else are you doing? And I think in the real estate, what we tell people, I was like, oh, you worked this week. Tell me what you did in detail. Write down everything you did.
It's so true. It is. I've been in it now for 3 months.
Yeah.
And love it. On average, I'm figuring out it saves any real estate agents I work for about 30% of your time.
That's insane. And we already don't do shit half the time. So
exactly.
That's 30% of nothing.
If you are a real estate agent and you are not actively involved in the ChatGPT ecosystem,
you need to get in there.
You are losing 30% of revenue because you are spending way too much time on email campaigns, social media calendars for content posting, text campaigns, scripts for YouTube, scripts for podcasts. You can do, and you can keep massaging it because you can go. It's called prompt engineering, and that's the thing that I'm all over because that's going to become a cottage industry. Prompt engineering that I'm all in on because it's good data in, good data out.
Yeah.
And that's ChatGPT. If you just say, build me, I need a property description for 123 Main Street. Well, it's going to give you whatever it pulls off the internet. It's memorized everything from the inception of the internet to 2021.
Yeah,
and that's beautiful. And that's 3.0. And 4.0 comes out this year. Forget it. Then we're cooking with gas.
I think that's going to be part of the thing. You got to get into it. But I don't know. I'll fax in my order form, and we'll see what that looks like. But no, it is an insane technology, and it's the next level. Always think about this is like you are ahead of the curve until everybody's ahead of a curve, and then you wonder where the next thing is. And so you look at where the tech industry is going, where the lead generation, because realtors are a great money source for lead gen. You look at the YLOPOs, right? They're clearly one of the first ones to go, I'm going to do this. And I looked at their back-end system. I was like, holy crap. It's like, my God, I'll buy myself more time with the nothing I already do.
YLOPO is legit. And AREAA is legit. And they're now kicking it up adding more fuel to the campfire because they're starting to do now more AI stuff.
And the funny thing is that there's got to be people also need to understand it's a balance, right? Yes, the AI is an aspect of your job, but you're going to need to talk to a person. You're going to eventually, I'm still on the side. I believe you need to get into the system, but you better get your ass out there at the same time. People think that this is like the one all, be all. And again, it costs money. So you better have some check equity. Because if you're starting and you have no money, you got to start off with the sweat equity. There
is not one single thing that you're going to do that is a tool in real estate that's going to make you successful.
No, unless you're freaking John Sullivan and you make calls 6 hours a day, every day.
I'll tell you something.
That's him.
John Sullivan, Huntington & Ellis, is the best time blocking circle prospecting agent in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
and I will argue anybody to that point. There's no one better than John. He is amazing at that. And the thing is, he's so open with what he does. All of his stuff is not RedX because he uses RedX. You can go into RedX, Google his name in RedX. There's a whole, how he time blocks. There's a whole podcast with him. And he's good because he's so open about what he does.
Yes.
like you, that you don't care if somebody else is going to copy you because you're so far ahead of everyone else. It's not going to hurt you.
There's enough business, honestly,
There's more business to go around, brother.
You know,
and it's bananas to me that some people get so provincial and they're like, nope, I'm going to keep my deck really close to my chest and
you're
not
going to
tell
fail
anybody.
because somebody's going to go ahead and see that and realize that, you know what, you could have an improvement somewhere and you're not allowing people. I was in software engineering, so open source is critical. And that's in our business as well. I'm always open to tell people, I was like, okay, what do? You want the basics? Like, do you want check equity or sweat equity? Pick one, and then we'll start from there.
One of the best compliments I ever have is when I'm presenting somewhere at a brokerage or at LVR or whatever, and other title reps will come in that don't work with me. They're not on my team at Fidelity. Yeah. Come on in. Yeah. I don't care. I'm more than happy to. I talk to reps because of Clubhouse all over the country. Reps in Texas, Clubhouse. Florida. Yeah. There's people I'm still friends with because of Clubhouse and they'll, hey man, I'm working on this. What do you think I should do? And they work for a competing title company. I don't care.
No, it's open source. I think that's for the Gary Vee part. It's the part where you're just like, look, just let it go. Tom Ferry started putting everything on YouTube, put everything out there and go, when you're ready to call me for the amount of information I've given you, call me.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's huge.
And just got to give it away. It's information. We're not inventing shit in real estate. This is a fucking wheel. Stop reinventing the business. Stop making it look like you're the greatest fucking things that walked into this industry and that you're going to somehow shake the industry up. No, you ain't. No, you're not. You can make some money.
Can we please do this again like really soon?
Yeah, whenever you want.
We have to. And I think the next time though is we're going to bring Miss Emily in.
Oh God, no, I got to take it easy.
Please. Just to add some credibility to us two schlubs sitting here with our heads look like our neck threw up. Yeah, and to bring in someone who is demure and professional and exudes grace and is also a top producing agent here and now a big team lead at Realty One Group with hundreds of agents, that she mentors. It's awesome.
Yeah. I'm going to tell her this now. She still calls me, asks me questions.
Emily, and I never look at the camera. Emily, you're still my favorite. Still my favorite. Thank you, my friend, for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
You're awesome.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Great hour flew by.
It flew by. It's like
I normally don't like talking to people because people are stupid.
Same.
In general.
Same. Thank you.
Thank you.